now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Monday edition of Before You Bet, Aaron Live right here on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and that subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content here on the Covers YouTube channel. You don't want to miss a second of it. So big show planned for you guys today. We got a lot to discuss here in the world of the National Football League. A lot of developments out of Week 18. The playoffs are set. Some coaches are fired. The top of the draft is set. We're going to break that all down here in a matter of seconds with jingles. Take a look ahead to the wild card round as well. What stands out to us from a betting perspective. Then in the second segment of the show, good looking board in the NBA tonight. Some news to discuss there with Jon Metler as well. Okay, so if you guys want to participate in the show today, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat on YouTube, on X. Who do you like in the first round of the playoffs here? What is your prediction to win the Super Bowl? We're going to give you ours. And anything you like in the NBA, give us a little breakdown. We'll read a few off throughout the course of the show. A couple guys in there right now. James Ferguson says, you doubted those Lions. I don't know who you're talking to. On Friday's show, I gave you guys Lions minus 2.5. I like them quite a bit. Going forward. Okay, let's get into it with our guy, the man with the sexiest smile in sports betting. We got to keep our phones near. Breaking news, potentially with more coaching news coming out of the NFL.
I'm literally looking at the Rams coaching tree to see who's next off the Sean McVay branches here, and just I don't know, like you got Mike LaFleur, Chris Shula. There's a lot of going on, and with people getting canned, I don't know. My coaching, my idea of like, oh, who's going to be the next coach? I'm not a very good source of knowledge. Like, I'm not a guy who's like, hey, yeah, got to bring Mike Vrabel into the mix. Like, I think you need to be a little more progressive, but progressive can also fall in its face.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Like, I'm a Dolphins fan. They're bringing back Mike McDaniel, and it's like, okay, if you fire him, who are you going to hire? You know, there's not many guys that you look at that you get excited and say, okay, that is a home run hire right off the bat. You know, a lot of the guys coming in, first-time head coaches, obviously everyone would like Mike Vrabel. Everything kind of points towards him going to the Patriots now. So more on that stuff here in a matter of minutes. Jingles, how was the betting weekend for you? Losing weekend for me, not an awful weekend, but I'm going to be looking to bounce back here wild card round. How do you make out?
I made up for it, dropping some big ladder parlay stuff on Sunday morning. But as for picks, I mean, Jared Goff, 3 touchdown passes. That's sunk quick. I was on Jalen Warren, and that Pittsburgh offense is absolute dog shit. Like it was hard to watch what Pittsburgh's doing, and they'll go into the playoffs as the worst offense. And took a bunch of swings on last TDs, but you need those teams to win early, and a lot of those teams that needed to win and had big spreads were not in the lead, especially late, especially that Tampa Bay game. I was heavy on Sean Tucker, who did get the number 2 carries, but it was Bucky time. And I mean, if you saw Baker, I don't know if I've seen anybody want to win it more than Baker Mayfield yesterday in terms of sacrificing his body. 9 carries, 63 rushing yards. Guy was getting killed.
Okay, so no Monday Night Football tonight. There will be a Monday Night Football game next week. You love that game in the playoffs here, but still a lot to discuss. So let's get into it like we always do on the Monday show, our biggest winners and losers of the week. Let's start positive with our winners. I will get rolling here with, there's no bigger winner than the Detroit Lions here. Yesterday, the stakes keep increasing and they keep on winning. And they didn't just win, they won big. It wasn't a wire-to-wire smackdown. They really pulled through here in the second half of the game, but 31-9. The defense was absolutely fantastic last night, and I do think they needed some positive momentum going into the playoffs. This is a team that desperately needed a week off. They haven't been off since week 5. So we all know about the injuries, so some players will get an opportunity to heal up for them. Career best game for Jahmyr Gibbs in the biggest game of the season. How about that? 4 touchdowns, 170 total yards. So unless you're a fan of one of their divisional rivals, you got to love the Lions. Let's go Detroit. How about the feel-good story of the week? Mike Evans in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that game was much more competitive than it needed to be, but the Bucs end up pulling through clinching the division and a home playoff game here. And how about Mike Evans, 1K for $3 million. Everyone knew about the incentive going into the week. I believe he didn't go over his over-under yardage total for the game, though. So everyone betting the overs on that lost their bets. But they come out in a situation where you would have ordinarily kneeled, considering everything that was on the line. They draw up a play for Mike Evans to get to 1K, to get that $3 million. So kudos to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization for allowing that to take place. And the third biggest winner of the week, the Tennessee Titans. They did exactly what they needed to do yesterday. They went out and lost to the backups of the Houston Texans and secured the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. They're going to be able to choose between the top two quarterbacks here. So good position for them. And honorable mention, how about Bryce Young here, guys? This is a guy a couple months ago everyone was killing, everyone wanted out of the league. He saved his best game of his career for the last game of the season. 3 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown runs, an overtime win, and a season best QB rating of 123.5. The Panthers have hope now because they are set at the quarterback position. He's starting to live up to that potential of being the #1 overall pick. Now they can focus on building around him, maybe invest in a wide receiver. Don't do anything stupid. Don't trade for Tyreek Hill. Maybe T. Higgins would be an option for them. We shall see. So those are my biggest winners of the week. What about you, Jingles?
You got yours in first, but mine were going to be very similar too, right? Tennessee getting the #1 pick is massive. And New England should have just they should have just fired Mayo like 5 minutes before the game, right? Like, you really want to lose the game? The guys aren't going to lose the game, right? The players aren't going to lose the game. Go fire your coach. Go throw your game plan out the window 5 minutes before the game. You're going to lose it. But Tennessee just said, hey, Will Levis had the second worst QBR in the entire season yesterday. And I'm gonna piggyback with Bryce Young. It's been really impressive, and that's kind of a stamp. That 5 total TD versus Atlanta game was awesome. But like, since the bye, like, he's played competitively. The schedule's been tough. Kansas City, Tampa Bay twice, Philadelphia, Dallas, Arizona, Atlanta. He had 16 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It's been a good run. They have Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette. Jonathan Brooks is probably done, but at least it's not where it was at the end of last year. And maybe there's a bit of bright light in terms of what Caleb Williams could be next year. Next, we got Baker. I already touched on it. Like, it was ugly early. People were absolutely firing on that Tampa Bay money line live. And I know a lot of people were in Washington too. And then all of a sudden Marcus Mariota comes in. So there's a lot of worried people there. But Baker got it done. And there were some tough spots where they were behind the sticks and Baker was just running for first downs. Turn that 16-6 halftime deficit into the division win. And as you touched on, looked like a great teammate as you got Mike Evans paid. And finally, the Ravens. They've gone from the worst pass defense in football to the best ever since moving Kyle Hamilton to safety. This is a team that nobody should want to face. And now I think they might have the easiest path to get to Kansas City, who they wouldn't have to face until an AFC Championship game, if things probably lay out the way they're going to, but probably beat down Pittsburgh, who can't score at all. And then, I mean, Denver could mess around with Buffalo, right? So if Denver wins, then they'll play Denver. And if not, how does it go? Sorry. If Baltimore wins, they play Buffalo, and they're a tougher matchup, I think. They don't want to play Kansas City after what happened last year. So there's options where if Buffalo loses to Denver, then they get the winner of Chargers-Houston. So KC, AFC Championship game, they got a good path. That's where my winners are. Honorable mentions, Bo Nix. I think he completed, his first 20 passes. He was elite. I think his first incomplete was that spike. And got a shout out producer Mick, who was screaming from the rooftops all week about Joe Milton and what he would do for the Patriots, who didn't want to win. But man, he didn't look too bad. The guy's an absolute linebacker of a human being. And it was actually kind of exciting to see what he was doing on the field.
Okay, let's get negative. Let's get nasty. Let's be mean. The biggest losers of the week, of course, with the Lions being the biggest winner. To me, this means the Vikings are the biggest loser. The stakes of that game are so massive, and the path through the playoffs becomes dramatically different for the winner and the loser. Now the Vikings have to go on the road to play a team that defeated them earlier in the season, the LA Rams. You might recall that game. Quite simply, I think the moment was too big for every single person involved here for the Minnesota Vikings, especially Sam Darnold, who looked really bad, one of his worst games of the season. He completed just 18 of 41 passes, was way off on a couple of the red zone attempts. The team went a combined 3 for 16 on 3rd and 4th down, 0 for 4 in the red zone. What did I tell you guys about the Vikings defense, about the great Brian Flores, who everyone wants to hand a head coaching job to? This defense is overrated. Whenever they play an offense that is good, they are getting absolutely lit up. That might happen again in the playoffs. We shall see. One of the teams that lit them up was the LA Rams, who scored 30 points against them earlier in the season. Tough spot for the Vikings. Great regular season overall. We'll see if they can bounce back here in the playoffs. My second biggest loser, the New England Patriots. They go from having the 1st overall pick to the 4th. So they have their quarterback, so maybe it's not that big of a deal that people are making it out to be. But if they had that 1st overall pick, they probably would have been able to get a boatload for that and really would have been able to fast forward this rebuild that they're going through with a bunch of other picks here. It's not to be, though. But the biggest fuck up here for the Patriots is, why did they wait to fire Mayo until after the game? It's not like he was coaching for his job. They won the game, for God's sakes. Now, I do like that they fired him pretty much right after the game yesterday. Like, why wait till Monday morning like every other team does? But they should have fired him going into the week. That is how you do a proper tank. So they really messed that up. And the third biggest loser of the week, this is a bit personal for me, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill coming off of an awful season for a variety of reasons. Yeah, he was injured a little bit, but he doesn't even wait for the body to get cold. Immediately after the game, speaking to the media, he pretty much comes out and says he wants out. He doesn't want to be on the team anymore. And this is a Miami Dolphins team that did every single thing to support Tyreek Hill, both on and off the field. The whole incident with the police, they were firmly, very verbally behind him in that situation. They give him a boatload of money, did everything to help him stuff the stat sheet. He's a sore loser. He had a bad season. Now he wants off the team because they're not winning. Tyreek Hill is a guy who got himself off of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, now he's not happy being on a team because they're not winning. You made your bed, dude. Now you got to lie in it. He's probably not going to lie in it, though, because the thing that pisses me off even more about this, when a player comes out and says that they want to trade, it impacts the trade value. So the Miami Dolphins probably aren't going to get a boatload for Tyreek Hill coming off an awful season when he clearly wants out. He's supposed to be a team leader. He's got that C on his jersey. He also sucked in big games. Every single Miami Dolphins fan that watches every snap like I do will tell you that. Dishonorable mention, it's got to go to the Atlanta Falcons. So they fucked this up every single step of the way. Kirk Cousins, a boatload of money, a ridiculous amount of money, an older guy coming off that serious injury, pretty predictable that he wasn't able to return to his old form. They also use that pick on Michael Penix, who could be all right here. The jury's still out there. But Raheem Morris is an awful head coach. He blew it. They could have had Bill Belichick. I think Belichick would have been a lot better option than Raheem Morris, who's not meant to be a head coach in the NFL. Those are my biggest losers of the week. Jingles, what do you say?
Question to you, Joe. Who do you hate more, Tyreek Hill or Leon's? That's the question. Both got you fired up, no?
Yeah, we'll save the Leon thing, but I'm not too happy with Tyreek Hill.
All right, let's go. Losers. Too much of an inside joke? All right. Bears, Browns, Jets, the most disappointing teams of the year. I think combined 13-38 on the year. If you're a Bears fan, if you're a Browns fan, if you're a Jets fan, it's been an ugly, ugly year. And let's be honest, brighter skies don't look great for any of those organizations. Losers, it's Monday. People are getting fired. Rod Mayo's gone. Doug Peterson's gone. Lou Amaretto's gone. Dennis Allen was fired. Robert Salah, Matt Eberflus. Lots of people getting fired. And as we touched on it, I don't know if there's going to be an easy fix as there was with Harbaugh coming in this year and changing things. I don't think there's that quick of a turnaround. And finally, the Atlanta Falcons, as you touched on, absolutely from start to finish, and like right down to the last minute of the game, losing to Carolina in overtime. How do you not win a division when you beat the division winner twice and you have the tiebreaker? It was just an awful fumble. They waited too long to bring in Penix. And if you watch Penix, the guy can absolutely swing it. It's so good. I'm really excited to watch him go forward, but just another organization that couldn't get out of its own way.
Darren Folk says, move the Browns to Canada. Hey, I would love an NFL franchise up here in Canada. I do not want the Cleveland Browns. They are cursed. It comes out this morning that Deshaun Watson, he's had a setback in his recovery from his injury. The worst transaction in the history of sports. That's not an exaggeration at all. So that just keeps getting worse. So some coaching news this morning. The Bengals fire their defensive coordinator. That guy was up for some head coaching jobs a couple of years ago. So the Bengals were a really fun team to watch down the stretch. A lot of overs, partially due to how bad their defense was. The Giants, or Doug Peterson fired from the Jags. We knew that was coming. The Giants bring back their guys. I don't know, not really much of a surprise there. We're going to find out about the Raiders, if they're going to make a move with Antonio Pierce. I think he has a press conference coming up or something like that. So who knows there? The Dolphins. One more thing about the Dolphins. It's going to get worse before it gets better for Miami. They have a lot of money locked up. Like they make Jalen Ramsey's still pretty good, but he's at the tail end of his prime. They gave Tyreek all that money. Tua is a ticking time bomb. He's missing time for stuff that isn't even related to concussions here, the most important games of the season. And Mike McDaniel's coming back, partially due because I think that they gave him that contract extension at the start of the season. So not good there. Any head coaching news, whether it be firings or people being brought back, surprising to you at all, Jingles?
No, and I think there still needs to be more people fired, as you touched on it. I think as the week goes on, hopefully we get some more. But it's always funny, and Todd mentions it, need to fire the GM. They're the safest human beings in all of football in this spot where they don't have the accountability that the head coaches do. And if, I don't know, it's getting progressively worse in sports. In hockey, I know literally the scapegoat of every poor team is the coach. But in the NFL, this is it. This is the week where it's like, okay, you're gone. We're going to change things. But in the sense, like there's so many Bears fans where it's like, how can we go through so many head coaches, offensive coordinators, and not find one that sticks? Like, where can the fingers be pointed at some point that it's not a head coaching issue? It's not a coordinator issue. It's not a number one pick quarterback issue. Maybe it's the people calling the shots. And I mean, when you're an owner of a team making billions of dollars and having $1 billion net worth, you're pretty safe, right? No?
Yeah, it's tough, man. And it is tough to start over again, too, like the Giants situation. Like, who's going to come in and fix that with a rookie quarterback, most likely, right off the bat? It's going to be interesting to see if the Browns are like, yeah, we want to draft one of these guys. I guarantee Shedeur Sanders will come and say, I'm not going to the Cleveland Browns. That'll be very interesting to see. Okay, let's look forward here. This weekend, wild card round. The NFC games, very sexy. The AFC games, not so much. So we have the Chargers favored by 2.5 in Houston for a Texans team that kind of unraveled a little bit down the stretch, total 42.5. Steelers, speaking of unraveling, that team's falling apart, limping into the playoffs. The Ravens up to -9.5 now. I don't know about that. Total 43.5. Nothing I love in those games from a betting perspective. I do like the over quite a bit on Sunday between the Broncos and the Bills. Everyone's going to have the Bills teased down to -2.5, including yours truly. Packers-Eagles, 4.5 favoring the Eagles. Jordan Love hit his funny bone, apparently. That's a real thing. I'd imagine he will play. Total 45.5. I do like the over in the Sunday night game. Bucks Commanders, it's at 50.5. Vikings Rams. Vikings favored by 1.5. You can be a prisoner of the moment. Everyone's going to be really down on the Vikings going into that game. I don't know, man. The Rams are so up and down. Total 47.5. My favorite bet on the board would be the over between the Broncos and the Bills. Jingles, what stands out to you from a betting perspective in the wild card round?
I don't know, like the Chargers, like they're up to 3 in a lot of spots. I don't know if you're winning up 3 on the road. in this spot. But I mean, the Houston offense is something I'm looking to fade. I hit their team total under 20.5 in this spot. It's just, it's such a bad offense now. And it's dead last in success rates since week 12. I mean, Joe Mixon just keeps getting run on first down in this Bobby Slowick offense, and it's not doing anything. Without Tank Dell, this is just a one-dimensional pass offense, and they can't even get Joe Mixon the ball anymore. It's a team that I'm really looking to fade, and that seems to be a trend that I'm doing here early in the week as I put in my bets, and they kind of go to a trader, sadly, as we bet them this early. And then So Houston's an offense I'm looking to fade. Another offense I'm looking to fade is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was the first one I wanted. If I could get that at 17.5, that's what I was telling myself before the numbers came out. That was an offense I wanted. And you just saw the absolute disorganization between a Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith offense, which is already an easy thing to fade. And then you have big quarterback names who we faded, and we've kind of given them a pass over the stretch. Guys like Sam Darnold, guys like Russell Wilson, who, if they reverted back to pumpkins in the wild card round, would we really be upset, Joe? Honestly, like, would it really surprise us to see Russell Wilson throw 2 picks and under 200 yards versus Baltimore, who I said is become maybe the best defensive team in football and has made changes. So those are 2 offense I'm looking to fade. Another offense I'm looking to fade, and it touches on kind of what you said as well, is Matt Stafford and that Rams offense, who they're winning games. They won 3 games prior to week 18, but they allowed just 2 touchdowns. Matt Stafford has been absolutely awful over those 3 games. Something's wrong there. 1 touchdown pass in those 3 games. This game could be really slow, and I think it counterproductive. Works with people all watching that Minnesota-Detroit game and how much everybody hates Minnesota now. Open 2.5, and it's starting to go the other way. So there's a lot to like in terms of Minnesota making adjustments after getting exposed versus a heavy rush team, and the Rams are probably going to want to run the ball a lot. This is a spot where I think Minnesota can do the same things that the same things. That the Rams defense is going to get to Minnesota. It's going to be a low-scoring game in this spot, but I think the Rams getting more than 21 points is going to be a tough spot because we haven't seen it. I haven't seen Matt Stafford do it since the beginning of December.
Okay, before we let you go, let's talk big picture. So Super Bowl matchup. I want to see some new blood. Like, for the best, from an entertainment perspective, for me, it would be Bills versus Lions. I wouldn't mind seeing Lamar get over the hump to at least get into the Super Bowl. However, for my prediction for what we're going to see in the Super Bowl, I'm sticking to the exact same prediction I had coming into the season. That was Lions over Chiefs. I don't think I need to make much of a case for the Lions at this point. As for the Chiefs, I like what we saw from them during the stretch run of the season. Obviously not yesterday. They were starting Carson Wentz, for God's sakes, but just battle tested. In the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, there's no one you want more than Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to stick with my prediction from the preseason: Lions to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. What do you say?
I know. I was in like Detroit, Philly, Buffalo area earlier in the year, starting things off, but I kind of like the path that Baltimore has. They get an easy matchup versus Pittsburgh. They don't have to see Kansas City until likely the championship game. That's a path I like because I think Buffalo has issues defensively up front against the run. I think Baltimore is a bad matchup for Buffalo. Kansas City, we'll figure that one out when we get there, but I think they have a very easy path to get to the Final Four in the spot. I like Baltimore in that plus 600 range. I don't think I'm reaching at any of those plus 350s. Detroit's obviously going to get healthier on the other side. And Philly's such a dark horse to me in terms of like where Jalen Hurts is in terms of concussion. Like, it sounds like everything he'll play, and I'm sure there'll be some easier check marks on his protocol that he does play in this spot. But how effective is he? Like, he's also a quarterback who hasn't had to play the pass much because they've been ahead, and it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. But I think if I'm making a statement, I like Baltimore in that plus 600, plus 700 range.
Yeah, I would like to see Baltimore get over the hump here as well. It's a movie we've seen before from them where they have these dominant regular seasons, then something happens in the playoffs where someone hits an off switch. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. Hopefully they get over the hump here, though. I think Patrick Mahomes, he won so early that kind of distorted people's kind of view of a lot of these quarterbacks. John Elway, for example, he didn't win till his last 2 years in the NFL. Peyton Manning It took him, what, 8-9 years, I think, to win. So, yeah, usually guys don't win right off the bat like Brady and Mahomes, two of the all-time best. So, yeah, we shall see. I cannot wait. You're going to be back with us on Friday's show. There's going to be a lot of props to dig into as well. So good luck with your handicapping. And, yeah, there's no football tonight or Thursday.
Yeah, it's a weird Monday,
weird.
yeah.
We're going to miss. Feels really weird. But we'll catch you on Friday, buddy. Enjoy your week.
All right. Appreciate it, Joe. Take care.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's talk a little NBA. A lot of news out of the NBA as well. Actually, before we talk NBA with Jon Metler, we're going to go back and talk NFL with him because you were in attendance at the Vikings-Lions game last night, but you were in attendance as a Vikings fan. You had a jersey and all. Tell us about the experience attending the game as a Vikings fan last night. Yeah, you probably regretted going, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch like some of the worst red zone offense you've ever seen in your life and do it. I will say from like a betting standpoint, I was talking about this earlier, it was very, very loud. Like I've been in Ford Field before where it's like, oh, they could win the game. They could get a big third down stop and it gets loud. There's like a different element of like, they think they can win the Super Bowl and they know there's way different energy. Like they put Aiden Hutchinson on the Jumbotron and that thing was like deafening. And then the Lions literally got a sack right there. So from like a betting standpoint, I would say it's a huge bailout for the Lions to get those two games at home. And I think it really covers up all those injuries on their defense because it's just so loud that you can't communicate. I was literally the guy staying beside me. I was trying to talk to him. I couldn't hear myself and he couldn't hear me. And then we're watching Sam Darnold try to change the play at the line of scrimmage. And we're like, there's just no chance. And I think you could see it on TV too. Like he looked rattled. Like they look sped up. The Vikings look sped up. They look like a team that was just thinking way faster than, and he just didn't look comfortable at all. So that's something I would definitely think about. I think it definitely helps the Lions huge that those games are at home.
Yeah, like I said, the moment was too big. You had to learn to win and play in those situations. It's different if you're playing at home for the Vikings. They have a great home field advantage, but they had their backs really up against the wall against that crowd and maybe the best team in the NFL. Nice bounce back by the Lions defense. Okay, let's talk a little NBA. Some big news out of the NBA. Tyreek Hill isn't the only superstar athlete likely to be on his way out of Miami. Jimmy Butler. This has really come to a head. They suspended him for 7 games here. The NBA trade deadline coming up on February 6th, which happens to be my birthday. If anyone wants to get me a present, I would like a PlayStation 5 and a second controller. But yeah, this has become a complete disaster, and there's odds up for which team Butler will be on. So the exact wording of it is next regular season minute played after the trade deadline for Jimmy Butler. So the favorites, you have the Miami Heat here. There's a possibility. I don't think they're going to trade him for peanuts. So there's a possibility that he won't be traded. So they're favored with the Grizzlies at plus 300. I think if you insert Jimmy Butler into that Grizzlies lineup, I think that would be sensational. The Phoenix Suns plus 450. The Warriors plus 500. The Rockets is another interesting one at plus 550. And then we start to fall off a cliff. The Pelicans, 12-1. What would that mean? Zion coming back? I don't know about that. But, yeah, interesting situation here. The Miami Heat, my whole, like, the big picture view of them is people talk about Bill Belichick lost his fastball. I think you could say the same thing for Pat Riley here, probably, because he's been incapable since LeBron left town of being able to bring in another superstar to pair with Jimmy Butler and Bam. And they've been linked to pretty much every superstar that's been on the trade block or going into free agency. They've just been unable to pull it off. So, John, what do you think happens with Jimmy Butler?
First off, I'll address the how are you a Tigers fan, how are you a Vikings fan? Very simply, when I was a kid, there was Randy Moss on the Vikings and there was Joey Harrington on the Detroit Lions. So I think you can figure that one out of why I went to the Vikings, and I live near Detroit, so that's why I'm a Tigers fan. But the Jimmy Butler thing, it feels like it's picking up momentum pretty like, so the Grizzlies moved from like 30-1 to 3-1. And that does feel like a landing spot. They have draft picks too, that he would go, and it feels like he would be that piece that they were trying to get with Marcus Smart. And Marcus Smart just hasn't worked out. He's been injured. He looked terrible at the beginning of this year. He honestly I don't think he looked like he was in shape. Now he's injured again. I feel like that just didn't work. So I feel like what they're trying to get with that like grit and defense of Marcus Smart, they feel like they could probably get in Jimmy Butler now. So that makes sense to me. I don't know if I love what that does shooting wise, because you kind of got John Morant, not much of a 3-point shooter. You got Jimmy Butler, not much of a 3-point shooter, but it would still be interesting. The Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic just both got benched today for tonight's game. They're coming off the bench, and Bradley Beal has a no trade clause, and they need him to waive it if the Suns want to get into the Jimmy Butler thing. And it feels like they are kind of forcing this, like we're putting on the bench, waive your no trade clause, because the Phoenix Suns have been all over Jimmy Butler as well too. So I think those two are very connected, and I think we're kind of picking up momentum towards a trade happen. I would not bet the plus 300 for the Heat. I don't think there's any way you suspend a guy for 7 games for detrimental to the team, however it was worded, and then he just comes back and plays, and especially not Jimmy Butler.
Well, that's the interesting catch of it, though, is that other teams look at it and say, you have to trade him now. He wants out. You're suspending him. So it's tricky, right? Because then that kind of decreases his trade value. But at the same time, the Heat are probably like, well, we don't want 4 second-round picks and your 8th best player for him. You got to give us something fair here. It's kind of interesting with the Suns, though. So you think maybe they're trying to force Bradley Beal's hand a little bit by benching him to waive that no trade clause. Do you think that's the strategy there?
Oh, absolutely. And the contracts align for Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal, so that works too. Just the Miami Heat have been adamant that they don't want Bradley Beal, and they didn't want him when he got traded the last time. So they need a third team to come in, and they need Bradley Beal to waive the no trade clause to whoever that third team is. And it doesn't sound like he's willing to do that. I don't know. There's a lot of reports the last like 24 hours coming out of the Phoenix Suns where it's not good in the locker room and it's not working. And they need to, you always see like, if you're on social, you always see like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker hang out. You never really see Bradley Beal. So it does feel like he's the piece that's like got to go, but he holds all the power. So I don't know. I do think it's going to be Butler, Beal, and a third team. I think we're getting closer to that.
Beal is not a winning player. It's that simple. He never has been, never will be. I would like to see Bradley Beal get traded back to the Wizards and start scoring 30 points every single game. But the catch is, though, he scores 30, but the Wizards will lose by 30 as well.
I really don't even know who would take him. Like, where is he going? Like, because he probably wants to be the alpha.
Lakers don't want him. Lakers seem to want any superstar, but they have no need for him. So, yeah. It's a tough spot. Maybe he can go play for the Hornets potentially.
I was thinking too.
Good fit there. Really quickly, Jimmy S says, where is Brad? We covered everything in the world of college football with Brad on Friday's show. You can only talk about the same game so much. However, Brad will be here on Thursday. Jake Budd as well, as we preview the semifinal games in college football. We cannot wait for that. We got 5 picks for the NBA tonight. John, why don't you get us started here? You have some props. I got a spread and a total. Tim Hardaway Jr., what do you like for him?
Yeah, I went Tim Hardaway Jr. over 11.5 points. So Jaden Ivey, he broke his leg. He's out. That he was a big usage piece beside Cade Cunningham. And you're kind of, any prop involving Tim Hardaway, you're kind of always looking at Malik Beasley as well. They kind of share the same role. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now, Tim Hardaway, he was always starting, but someone has to pick up where Ivey left off. And then Malik Beasley is like that, almost that Hardaway role. Either way, it's turning into, if you look at his minutes, Hardaway's minutes, the last 3 games, he's 30 plus. And the Pistons have won all 3 games. And then you look at the matchup, the Portland Trailblazers do not have good defenders at all, but they're one half decent defenders, Toumani Camara, and he's going to be on Cade Cunningham. So if you need more scoring because Jaden Ivey's out, they're only like really good wing defenders on Cade Cunningham. It's going to push shots and usage to someone else. And it's got to be Tim Hardaway Jr. or Malik Beasley. So Beasley was like 17.5. I like Tim Hardaway Jr. a lot better at 11.5. And I just think he's going to get shots. Like, you're going against Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson. None of these guys are good defenders, and they just need someone to step up. I don't think this prop is properly adjusted because Hardaway hasn't scored as much as you think he would with Ivey out. So I don't think it's properly adjusted, and it could happen pretty quick here. He's going to get the shot. So give me the over 11.5.
I like the over in the Pacers-Nets game. 223 here, minus 108 on this one. So this is something I pointed out last week when the Pacers were playing the Heat. That game went over. Pacers games, this is actually the lowest total for a Pacers game in almost a month. Pacers games with totals in the 220s this season are now 12-4 to the over. They're really hot offensively here, 5th in offensive rating over the last 5 games. This matches up really well with both of these two defenses being awful, 21st and 28th in defensive rating over the last 5. The Nets defense getting absolutely blasted here to open 2025. And what I like about this, expect to see a lot of time spent on the free throw line, the clock stop, points being scored, both rank in the top 10 in free throw attempt rate over the last 5, both rank in the bottom 10 in opponent free throw attempt rate. Next up, Bulls are playing the Spurs, and there's a player prop you're targeting in this game.
Yeah, I went Devin Vassell over 18.5 points. So beginning of the year, he was injured. Then he came back, and it was kind of shocking. You thought he would just be inserted back in his starting lineup, and he didn't. He kind of played a bench role for quite a while, and Stephon Castle kept starting. That's completely flipped now. He's starting. He's playing 35 minutes a night. And again, the matchup, you're looking at the Bulls. They don't have anyone who can guard Victor Wembanyama. Like Nikola Vucevic can't guard him. They're going to have to send so much help towards Wembanyama. I just think it's going to create a ton of catch and shoot opportunities for Vassell, because you're always going to have Vassell standing pretty close to Wembanyama. So it makes them think about the help. I mean, that's the whole, that's Vassell's game. He's a great shooter. And then just even on his own, like, I mean, you're going against Kobe White, Zach LaVine, like you're going to be able to create shots on your own. He hasn't really got, I think last game he scored 19, but he had 20 shots. So like he's getting the shots. The shots are there. This total's 18.5. I just think that's too low. The Bulls are a lot of offense, not a lot of defense. So give me a Vassell on the over.
Okay, next up, one of my favorite spots of the season, backing the Memphis Grizzlies after a loss, which is a situation tonight. I'm taking them at -4.5 with the Dallas Mavericks in town. So Memphis is an NBA best 10-2 against the spread following a loss or coming off a loss on Saturday to the Golden State Warriors in Golden State. Mavs are really struggling without Luka. By the way, Kyrie's not in the lineup for them either tonight. I'm surprised the spread is only 4.5. 3 straight double-digit losses without Luka in the lineup. And they also have a loss to the Portland Trail Blazers in there as well. And you might be thinking, well, Joe, the Grizzlies haven't been playing that great lately, which is true. However, they were just on a 5-game road trip. They're back home tonight. They are number 3 in net rating in the NBA when on their home floor. I think this is an excellent bounce back spot for them. They play tonight, then they're off until Thursday. The Mavs, meanwhile, get a rush, hop back on a plane. They play the Lakers at home tomorrow. I love the spot. I love the situation here for Memphis -4.5. Okay, John, bring it home. DeMar DeRozan. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, I went to DeMar DeRozan over 3.5 assists. This is actually, I think we had this exact bet. I don't know if it was 3.5 or 4.5, but it was earlier in the season against the Miami Heat. He's always had pretty good success generating assists against the Miami Heat because they're really good at building walls against him in that mid-range. It's just a thing Eric Spoelstra does to DeMar DeRozan, and he ends up kicking out to shooters. The one thing that, so I priced this with De'Aaron Fox playing, and it had a great edge, and that's the number I tweeted out. But De'Aaron Fox missed their game yesterday, and he's not really someone who like misses games. Like if Anthony Davis missed the front end of a back-to-back or LeBron James, you could probably assume they're going to play the back end. The fact that Fox missed the game with an injury, I don't think it's right to just assume he is playing. So like if De'Aaron Fox is out once again on the second night of a back-to-back, I mean, your usage just increases for DeMar DeRozan. It didn't show up in the game yesterday. If you're looking at the box score, DeRozan had 1 assist. They had 8 potential assists. So like the creation was there. The minutes were a little lower because they blew out the Golden State Warriors. So it was definitely there for DeRozan and just didn't convert. And that's why, it moves from like -110 yesterday to like +115 today. So it just increases your edge. So I'm going over on DeMar DeRozan.
Okay, quick recap of the picks here. I'm going Pacers Nets over 223, Grizzlies -4.5. John's going with Tim Hardaway Jr. over 11.5 points, Devin Vassell over 18.5 points, and DeMar DeRozan over 3.5 assists. Okay, so big week coming up here on Before You Bet. We're going to be back tomorrow with Pro Sports Better Hitman. Jon Metler, of course, will be with us then. And every other day this week, John Middlecoff will be back this week on Wednesday. A lot to discuss in the world of the NFL. Thursday is going to be a big-time college football show with the semifinals taking place Thursday and Friday evening. So NBA there as well. Then on Friday, it's going to be our big-time NFL wildcard round betting edition of the show. So yeah, lots of work to do behind the scenes to get ready for all the shows. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you to the two fellas, Josh and Josh Jingles and John. I'm forgetting their names. A case of the Mondays here. Thanks to producer Mick, put together a great show for us today. Check out our sponsor, BetMGM, for all your sports betting needs. Thank you to all the great viewers for tuning in. We will catch you guys again tomorrow, same time, same place. Best of luck with your bets tonight. Let's go Grizzlies. Woo!